Hey there. I'm Adam Sessler, editor-in-chief, exec producer of Red 3 Games. Thank you. I think this is my 5th or 6th Assassin's Creed panel that I've moderated, and I've been told that if I do one more, I get to kill somebody. Yeah, I always enjoy doing the Assassin's Creed panels because I really, really like the franchise. The fact that it has always been sort of based in history, in research, and that, you know, I love dragons, I like laser guns, but there still is a sense of sort of mystery and wonder and adventure in actual things that actually happened, and I really always get fascinated with every new Assassin's Creed, just sort of how it gets treated. I love doing interviews and just finding out sort of the lore and the actual things that occurred, and that gets all the more interesting when you add pirates. Arg. And so we're going to be learning sort of, you know, what's in the game and the history behind it. And so to help make that happen, I don't want to waste any more time of me babbling. I would like to bring out to the stage the game director, and the first time he has been game director for an Assassin's Creed game, Ashraf Ismail. And also for our panel, we have a very special guest. He may appear rather familiar to many of you if you watch the show Game of Thrones. He plays Dagmar Cleftjaw, loyal to the House Greyjoy. But in this game, he's playing a person who's probably even less reputable. That is the one and only Captain Charles Vane. I would like to invite out to the stage Ralph Ineson. So, Ash, I'm going to start with you. One of the joys of Assassin's Creed is you can sort of look at all of history and say, I'm going to do that. So you could have done ninjas. You could have done something as interesting as, like, you know, New Jersey in 1940. But you chose pirates. I mean, was there a certain challenge that pirates, you know, kind of set up, be it the seafaring or just how you build a level that was kind of enticing?
You know, when we started this game, there was always this intent at Ubisoft to create a pirate game. But doing a pirate game is incredibly difficult because you have to give due respect to the naval, to cities, to natural environment. So doing it all in one shot is incredibly difficult. But then with AC3 pushing the naval and pushing navigation and natural environments, we felt like, okay, we were at a place where maybe we could do a pirate game. And then, of course, we knew we were shipping on next gen, so we knew we needed to create a world that was pushing our own limits. You know, we know how to build cities, but building this kind of sandbox naval open world, you know, it was really tough. It was really scary. We spent a full year just doing R&D about how to build this kind of world. And not just the game side. On the historical aspect of it, I mean, piracy is incredible. It's a really huge thematic. You know, AC3 showed the American Revolution, and this was an attempt at a governance that worked. And we wanted to tell the tale of a version that failed miserably. And so you have these people that wanted to create their own republic, but you know, they drank and they boozed and they gambled their money away, so the whole thing fell apart in a pretty spectacular way. So yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it does help when you're building a democracy to try to have one guy who's sober.
Yeah, one guy.
If you wouldn't mind talking about that, and Ralph, feel free to jump in. I mean, it is kind of fascinating. Believe it or not, I learned this from reading William Burroughs, of all people, but the logic and kind of the government, for lack of a better word, that governed piracy, was actually one of the earliest, if not the earliest, form of democracy since the Greeks.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, Ralph, you want to jump in?
Well, yeah, it's true. It's the pirate ships. Pirates, they elected their own captain, and they could get rid of the captain whenever they wanted. So it was a very early democracy, and yeah, the way they set up the Pirate Republic was kind of impressive when you consider when it happened, 50, 60 years before the American Revolution. So yeah, it was impressive, the idea of setting it up, but yeah, failed miserably because of the people involved in it. Probably principally Charles Vane.
Charles Vane
was,
one
of the major problems with it. Yeah.
So in making the game, obviously I think we should point out how ambitious, I believe, having an open world naval game is. The only other one I can think of is Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. And that had a rather unique take on it. Yeah. I mean, what were kind of the key things that you wanted to make sure were representative of a sort of a naval experience? Obviously not scurvy or probably the smell of urine, but you know, in terms of how the ships are built and how they really were these kind of almost small cities that could wage war.
Yeah. You know, we took a lot of pride in making sure, well, first I'll take a step back and say, you know, Assassin's Creed, it's not about realism, it's not about simulation, it's about credibility and authenticity, where we are a game. So, you know, when we built the ships, initially we tried a lot of different mechanics for the sailing to see how accurate we can make it. And what we found was at some point it was just way too complicated and it wasn't fun to play. But the way we built the ships, the accuracy of the size and the detail level, this is something we take a lot of pride in. We had a lot of historians that came in early in the project that, you know, weapon experts, people who knew how the flintlock pistol worked and what it was used for, who knew how boarding worked. So we brought in a lot of people to give it that credibility, to make sure that the naval side, the ship side of things was at least very credible. From the environment perspective, you know, we had our art director, our level design director, you know, spend a few weeks in the Caribbean. Game development.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, game development is a very tough place. So, you know, they spent a few weeks. Our audio guys went there and they recorded, you know, they recorded tons of different sounds of animals, of the ocean itself, of tropical downpours. So we do put a lot of effort to making sure that it is credible. But then once we have that foundation, you know, like I said before, we're a video game, and so we tweak it and we play with it until it reaches a very fun level. And so, you know, the Caribbean world we have in this game, I'll be the first to say it's not 100% accurate to the real Caribbean, but it's credible enough and it's been built in a way that we guarantee that you're always having fun. There's always something interesting for you. You know, there's always something on the horizon for you to find. And it took, like I said before, it took a year of just pure R&D to reach that.
Also, the cities, Havana, you know, it's a much different architecture than what we've seen in recent Assassin's Creed games. And obviously, Renaissance Italy's got a lot of flowery things on their buildings, and you know, colonial America is a little more sort of sturdy. But it's the Spanish architecture, and almost, I mean, what I've seen in the game, also kind of an ad hoc city building, almost a bunch of lean-tos put together. I mean, was it fun to get to play with something that's a little more claustrophobic?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, I've said it a million times, and I'm sure you've all heard it. You know, Havana was built with AC2 in mind, because we love the verticality. Mm-hmm. For sure, the artistic, the aesthetic of the city is really accurate to the Spanish city itself. But we love the verticality. We loved how the cities was built and how it asked the player to navigate upwards. You know, Nassau is the city that's a bit more organic. It's chaotic in its nature because it was built by pirates. But from a gameplay perspective, it's incredibly fun because you have really dynamic changes of heights. And it's probably the most unique city we've ever built.
And it does smell of urine as well.
It smells of urine. Yeah, so you know, we put a lot of effort into the cities, and we take care to make sure that the navigation is really strong. The vibe, the culture of the cities, you can really feel it. The sounds and smells are accurate, and so on.
Yeah, I'm so glad we can't smell our games, because I don't think this one would smell very, very good. Ralph, obviously this game is trying to be a little bit more grounded in the proper history of pirates, and if there's one thing that probably wasn't actually pleasant in history that has been romanticized sort of out of control, be it through Peter Pan or Robert Louis Stevenson, I'm curious, when you were kind of doing your research, not just for Charles Vane specifically, did you learn stuff? I mean, was it kind of enlightening to see what the actual rules and what the history was of piracy?
Yeah, it really was, because I think I, like everybody else, had bought into this romantic idea of the pirates, and you kind of forget that they're basically a bunch of hoodlums sailing around robbing people. And even though they have this democratic sense and an honourable sense of setting up this community, the actual reality of it is that most of the guys who were on these crews were pretty bad men. And so it's a down and dirtier version of Assassin's Creed, I think, than the last one. You know, the people you're meeting, the people you're interacting with, it's a pretty edgy place. So yeah, it was amazing to research and find out the reality of what happened to all these guys, especially Vane. Charles Vane was a particularly bad guy who had no respect of authority of any kind, accepted the pardon from the king to give up privateering, and then just carried on privateering anyway. And he did that twice. So yeah, he's quite a guy, really.
Well, you know what? Actually, we have a video that kind of shows some of your work and some of the other actors also who's playing Blackbeard. And so why don't we take a look at that, and then I have some more questions for you about your role in all of this.
Raise the black flag, lads! Let 'em see it!
My name's Matt Ryan. I'm playing Edward Kenway in the game Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Edward's a quick-witted Welshman who leaves to seek his fame and fortune in Nassau at a young age. As is custom among our kind, we do not plunge headlong into folly on the orders of a single madman,
But act according to our own collective madness.
When we meet him, he's brash, rude, very selfish. He's presented with these different opportunities and different versions and ideas of ways of living, and you don't quite know which direction he's going to go. And I think that's really an interesting dilemma.
We're outnumbered, mate. It's not the first time, Kenway. It won't be the last.
My name is Mark Bonner. I'm playing Blackbeard.
Load the heavy shot, lads!
I like the fact that nobody really knows who he was, you know, other than the fact he was fucking terrifying.
Give your quarry something to fear. Some hellish thing from a fevered dream. And men will drop to their knees, pleading for their lord.
He understands the power of fear, and he knows how to use it to its absolute utmost.
Way to the mar.
When Edward comes to this new world, Thatch has become almost like a father figure to him.
The man's a prick.
And my name's Ralph Einson, and I'm playing Charles Vane. So this is the new Libertalia, eh? Stinks the same as every other squat I've robbed this past year.
When they first meet, Edward has heard all the rumors about Vane, and he's obviously a little bit skeptical, but there comes a time when the two of them could make a really good pirating partnership.
We can build a fire ship.
He's a lunatic. He's the most instinctive and the baddest of the pirates. Don't come following now! Do you hear me? That's the beauty of playing a character like that. It's kind of like primal screen territory. I'll gut you! I'll open you up! I'll rip out your guts, traitor! At the end of the day, you kind of feel really calm.
This game is about a man who's trying to find his way in the world. His character is in permanent conflict all the time as to which direction to go in. And what's really interesting about playing that is that there's so many different levels to him.
So, yeah, you know, he's your ultimate hero.
Take no quarter, lads! And give none neither!
So, Ralph, I think one of the most interesting things about the character of the historical figure of Charles Vane is we all kind of know who Blackbeard is, but Charles Vane was what Blackbeard kind of tried to pretend to present himself as. He was, he wasn't as violent as you would think he would be, but Charles Vane, on the other hand, was kind of a sociopath.
Yeah, I think there's an element of the psychopath, the sociopath about him, although, because that would have almost been the easy way to play him. There's a great scene where he talks about his father and his lack of respect for his father, his hatred of his father. So that kind of gave me something to play with as far as the reasons for this incredible anger and bitterness that kind of pervades everything he does. He's just one of those incredibly instinctive characters who attacks before thinking in every situation. Blackbeard was different. He tried to create a persona to scare people.
He lit his hair on fire, apparently.
Yeah, he lit a beard on fire to stand at the front of his ship to give this incredible thing, so people would just give up before they actually got there. You know, he wouldn't have to kill anybody because people would just give up because they were so terrified of the reputation. Whereas that's no fun for Charles Vane. Charles Vane enjoys the killing. He enjoys the infliction of pain. That's what he's about. You know, he just loves the violence. And that was great to play.
There was an actual twinkle.
Yeah, I know.
There was a twinkle in his eye when he said that.
Can everyone just check up on me in 30 minutes, make sure I'm... So you've obviously done both theater, film, and quite a bit of television. What was it like doing this type of acting, this performance capture? I mean, obviously you had a weird Videodrome contraption on your head, but in addition to that, is it a different experience than what you're typically used to?
It's completely different. I mean, when I took on the job, I imagined it would be very, very technical. We'd be spending a lot of time with the technical, but I didn't think there'd be much chance to act, to play the character as such. But it turned out to be completely different. The way you film mocap filming with the whole suit and the head camera and everything. After about 5 minutes of wearing that, you completely forget about it. And we were shown all the various worlds that the characters would be appearing in before we started filming. So when you're actually there, you can imagine it. It's like being a child playing war. You know, you actually believe that you are in there, and hopefully as actors we maintain a bit of that childish imagination. So it was great fun to do. And when you're making a movie, you have to do a million different shots, a million different takes. You have to match every bit of continuity. You have to hit marks for focus. Whereas in a mocap studio, you have 50 cameras all around the outside of the studio. So you do the scene in the middle of the studio. And when you have that scene in one, that's it. You don't have to do any other shots of it. So once it's right, it's right. So within that take, you have a lot of freedom to act, to really let go. So it was much more freeing, more like theatre than I imagined it would be. It's kind of more imaginative than doing movies in a way, which was a lot more fun than I thought it would be when I took the job on.
So Ash, obviously this is a title that will be on the current generation of consoles, but also next gen. Actually, I hadn't seen before the lip reading, extruding thing that was on Ralph's face. I mean, was both with the characters in the world. What were you able to do to kind of bring a higher level of verisimilitude or reality?
Well, because we're doing next gen, you know, we're able to play a lot more with the fidelity of pretty much everything. That little contraption is actually a camera, so it's actually capturing accurately the actors' faces, and then our animators take that over and start messing around with it and tweaking the details for the cinematics and for the in-game stuff. But you know, the thing is, our world needed to be as credible as possible. The characters, we really wanted to make sure that we're not going to have, honestly speaking, we're not going to have massive long cinematics. We have shorter cinematics, but that they're filled with a lot of meat. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and you know, I'll be the first to say Darby did a fantastic job writing the script. There's some really amazing scenes. His introduction, Charles Vane's introduction, is phenomenal. It's really hilarious, and there's a lot of humor in the script, in the dialogue, and for sure it comes out more when we're able to capture more of the details of the actors, of the environment itself. You know, on Next Gen, we have pretty much physics on everything. So you feel the credibility of the environment much better. You know, that's not to say that the current gen is somehow less. I would say it's the best looking AC we've ever made. But on next gen, there's just so much more to work with and so much more to be able to push.
To that point of credibility, you know, it's pirates. We've already talked about that. You're trying to kind of base it in the actual history of piracy, but the urge. I mean, there's you know both in terms of how you would do a characterization of Charles Vane or someone would do a Blackbeard. Where was the line where it's like, okay, that's going into the silly territory? Like, did you? I mean, like, are there any Archimedes or parrots on people's shoulders? Like, did you come to a decision that that's too much, but you had to kind of indulge a little bit of it because it is pirates?
Yeah, for sure. I mean. You know, yes, we from the beginning we said we're making a credible pirate experience and something that's more authentic, because the stuff that happened was actually pretty awesome, and it was like these really insane characters that were over the top, like Charles Vane, like Blackbeard. But you can't do a pirate game, I think, in my opinion, without certain things. For example, you know, you have to have treasure maps. Pirates did not have treasure maps. But we kind of squeezed it in, and it's you know, it's not core to the experience, so we kind of had a little fun with it. there are things that we just said we will not do because it's just way too cartoony or way too romanticized. So for example, the pirates, the gangplank, you know, they never actually put guys on planks and made them jump off ships. That happened, I think the first recorded history of it was way after the golden age of
Yeah,
pirates.
I think that was actually practiced more by the Navy, by the
Yes,
actual
exactly.
English military, if somebody was insubordinate. I mean, it's a rather arduous and prolonged process to kill somebody.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I mean, pirates at the end of the day were actually very efficient in what they did, mostly because they were just resources were rare in every perspective of it. You know, even using guns, as much as possible, they tried to save bullets or to craft their own bullets, stuff like this. So killing a guy slowly, maybe they did it for fun, but the gangplank thing never actually happened. So we don't have that in the game. So we took some liberties for sure. And there was no official ruling. It was really our gut, you know, as a creative team. What do we put in? What don't we? I think the overall experience will feel very piratey, and will feel very gritty. But for sure, like treasure maps exist, and you know, boarding is actually very accurate to what it was at the time, and that's probably the most piratey aspect of the game.
Well, I mean, I know from some of the times that I've played it, one of the more pleasurable things is to just board someone else's ship.
Yeah.
And I was playing it and never. I was like, well, yeah, you can get on the ship from all these ways. Like, no, I'm jumping on there. I'm gonna start kicking ass. That is my dream here. Ralph, I don't want to say did you go all method in preparing for Charles Vane, but I mean, were there fun things like rum and stuff like that you kind of thought about? I guess the idea of playing a pirate just sounds so much fun. What luxuries did you grant yourself?
It was great fun, but in a sense, what you're talking about playing a pirate and those things that you're imagining when you're talking about playing a pirate, it's more about playing a bad man in that situation. It's playing the guy rather than the situation, in a sense. So, yeah, he is what he is. He has his motivations. There's incredible, like I say, anger, bullying, intimidation about him that fits into many situations throughout history or whatever. You could place Charles Vane in many different situations. I think that's what's more interesting about him than actually playing the pirate, as it were. The pirate side of it is taken care of by Ash's work, by Darby's work, and by that whole thing. I think as an actor, you try and find what the character's about, and that's not about what he drinks. It's not about what he does for a living. It's about what is going on upstairs. You know?
So we've been talking about this game for quite a bit. Would you guys like to see some of the game? Yes. Can we show them some of the game?
Sure, why not? Let's do it.
No, yeah, we're just suddenly decided it all up here at this moment. No, we're going to actually do a walkthrough of some of the game right now. Ash, would you like to kind of set up what the setting is and where this is in the game?
Yeah, of course. So what we're going to see is it's a naval fort gameplay. This is the one that you run into in the main path of the story. It's pretty early on in the game. At this point, we haven't actually met Charles Vane yet, but it's Edward starting to explore the world, starting to look around, and so yeah, early in the game.
All right, let's take a look.
So, what'll you do with your share of the gold we take from Governor Torres? Return to Africa, prince among men?
I cannot return to a place I've never been.
So actually,
I was born in Trinidad,
we'll just talk over
a
this for now,
slave from my
'cause,
first breath.
Adewale,
Wouldn't you feel, I don't
Ralph
know?
yesterday gave me a really funny
welcome
anecdote
there.
about him.
might
I'll
feel
let
more
Ralph tell it since it's his story.
Fair point.
Adewale, played by Tristan
skin and this
Lala,
voice, where can I go in the world?
Canadian mocap actor, is fantastic,
Country here
with
is
the
my
biggest
best chance.
feet in the business.
Country called Jack.
He's got size 15
I know
feet.
the names of all
So there you
citizens
go.
and they know
So
mine.
that's something to think about when you're watching Adewale doing his thing.
Not always out of love, but to keep
And
our
honestly,
country.
Tristan did a fantastic job with Adewale.
He's brilliant.
Ade, he's very important to the story. He sticks with Edward quite a bit, and he's Matt was fantastic, but Ade has a few scenes that he totally steals, and they're wonderful.
Far too honourable, the pair of them.
So here, this is a very simple naval fort. I'll try to give you guys some details about stuff maybe you don't know already about the game. So as I said, this one's an easy one. It's at the beginning of the game. We're just kind of trying to get you introduced to the concept of fighting this thing that's static, that shoots quite a lot of weapons at you. We have 11 zones in the world. So the world is broken up into 11 parts. Each part is defended by a fort. So the point of doing a fort is actually to clear the zone. So there's a total of 11 forts in the game. This one happens to be very easy. The very difficult ones, they're insanely difficult. You have to have upgraded the jackdaw quite a bit and have mastered your weapons. The mortar is super effective. Here, we've shown this a couple times, you probably know it. This is a brig. It's a charging enemy. He tries to ram you as much as he can. We know when you have one of them, it's not that bad. When you have two of them, it's really tough. When you have three, it's virtually impossible. So we mess around with that. We have a lot of fun with it. Fire barrels here as an example of a weapon that's it's very useful against these guys.
And the controls for the naval combat have also changed quite significantly from AC3. You're just kind of rotating the camera, and that selects what type of weapon you might be using.
Yeah, because we added a pretty massive progression system on the Jackdaw, we had to rethink how the weapons work, the amount of weapons that the Jackdaw has. We have 7 weapons on the Jackdaw. All of them are fully upgradable, multiple levels of upgrades. And we had to rethink how do you access them, because we didn't want it to be through some awkward weapon wheel or some kind of menu. So it's actually based on the camera. Where you're looking is the weapon that you've selected. So if you look behind you, it's the fire barrels. If you look in front, it's the chain shot. Actually, I'm curious. What would Charles Vane say of Edward right now?
It's all a bit strategic, really, isn't it? You should really be getting off and just getting in and getting stuck in. I think Charles Vane would be more front foot about it. Because there's not a lot of fun in shooting cannons at people. You want to look into somebody's eyes as you kill them. I think that's what it'd be about. You want to see the light drain from the eye.
So you know what? I get a lot of questions about why does he put his hood up there? Is it contextual? Is it button pressed? So it's actually based off of the restricted area zone. So whenever you see the red zone on the minimap, Edward will flip his hood on. So that's how that works. Hope that's clear. With a naval fort, the objective is to take down the towers, and then once you get onto the location, you start raiding it. You have to find the commander. You like the headshot?
Yeah. That's more Charles Vane.
That's Charles Vane style. So there's a fort commander. You have to take him out. There we go.
That was also, there's a speed going on in this walkthrough that seems unique to AC4.
Well, hello, Your
we
Excellency.
we sped up a lot the navigation of Edward, the way he climbs. It's actually been quite sped up. The fight itself is harder. This is something that I get challenged on quite a bit at work because people want the fight. Some people want it to be more challenging. Some people want it to be more accessible. We've decided to go a little bit harder. Nothing that you can't master, but still, the fight is harder. The navigation is actually a bit faster and so on.
Something else I wanted to ask you about is sort of companion apps. Okay, I'm leading this because I've seen how it works, but it really, really made me happy. If you wouldn't mind going into some detail, how if you have a second screen, which you're able to take advantage of in the game.
Yeah, so the companion app, it's something that's being really pushed by Next Gen, and a lot of teams are still trying to figure out how to use it. Our own sister game, Watch Dogs, they have some really cool stuff. The philosophy that we took from a design perspective was that we wanted it to be a comfort and an extension of the game. And what that means is a comfort is that you don't need it to play the game, but it's definitely going to be useful for you. So if you have it next to you, it's the basic view is the world map. and it's live update with the game. So everything that's happening in the game you can see on the companion app. If you have someone with you in the room, the idea is they can kind of act as your quartermaster. They can put waypoints for you. They can highlight events that are happening, and it'll pop up in the world. Beyond that, if you have a treasure map, it'll also, you can bring it up there. You know, one of the coolest things with the treasure maps is that we took this really old school adventure game philosophy, which is we show you the map and we give you coordinates. And the idea was that you needed to write these coordinates down because then you need to go to the world map and find these coordinates. And it's, you know, just the idea that you're playing a game and you take a pencil and write something down. That's cool. That doesn't happen anymore. That's like old school adventure game stuff. So that's awesome.
Well, also the treasure maps are kind of crudely hand drawn. It's like, this is my tree, and it's near this tree by that rock, and dig there. And the idea that you can pull that up, if you think about a lot of other games out there, where you're going back and forth from a pause screen to that, like trying to see if it matches up, and now you can just kind of
exactly. You can bring it up on the companion app, and it can help you. At least you can have it sitting next to you and kind of just doing a comparison right away. Actually, small anecdote, all of the treasure maps were not done by artists. They were all hand-drawn by one of our game designer, who just picked all the places and he just drew them himself.
Was he just holding the crayon in his fist, just like, all right, yeah, this is where we're going to find the gold?
Yeah, he did them as a mock-up, and we kind of looked at them and was like, okay, job done. No need to take it to artists. Yeah.
Very cheap.
And then the extension part of the game is that we have the fleet. Whenever you board a ship, you can send it to your fleet, and on the companion app, you can play inside the fleet. So whenever you send them on a mission to go plunder outside the Caribbean, on the companion you could be on the bus and you can be playing that game and doing the combat and plundering more, and then it live updates with the game. So of course, as soon as you pick up the game and start playing on the console, all that stuff that you collected shows up there.
Yeah, it's someone I was slowly warming up to the idea of having that second screen, and now there's a level of just wisdom to how it's being applied, which is quite nice. We were talking about the three cities. There's Nassau, there's Kingston, there's Savannah, and you were talking about how the map has sort of 11 sort of zones in it. Yep. But there's a lot of smaller explorable spaces that are throughout this entire world that's in AC4.
Yeah, we have, initially we were saying we have over 50 locations. Ever since then, the art team and the level design team decided, we can push out more. So I think we're above 60 now. So the world is absolutely massive. Our objective when we started creating this world is that we wanted a real sandbox. We wanted a real world that you can get lost in. And there was a lot for you to see and a lot for you to do. And it's not just seeing new content, it's being motivated to go see that content. And that's where the progression system came in. So it's a massive world. It's it was almost uncomfortable for us to build because we didn't know how to build it at first. The first few maps were really terrible, and it took a lot of iterations to get it right. But again, we were at it for a little while, so we were able to really push and do a lot of prototyping. And in the end, we've got tons of locations. They're all unique. There's a lot of stuff to do and find in them, and it's I'm really proud of this world. One thing that's kind of new in the world philosophy, and this is something that I hope we push forward in the brand, is the idea that you have this hub where you have smaller maps inside this hub. And in our case, it's the ocean, and the ocean has all these islands and locations. And what's cool about it is when something's not working, you can just very quickly iterate on it, and it's not a huge job to do that. And then you can have lots of diversity because of this. And it's a really cool way to consume the world, and I think people are going to be really surprised with how they feel about the world and how they consume all the content of this world. So this is something that I'm really proud of and excited about, and I sincerely hope we carry this tradition into future games.
I'm all for that, James.
Yeah.
Ralph, obviously you theater, stuff like that. I don't know how much insight you had when you were working on the game about what it sort of takes to construct a game in a game world. I was curious just, sort of how you came into it with your expectations of how games are made and how you now feel about it.
Yeah, I knew very, very little. And turning up at the studios in Montreal and the scale of it, to walk in and just see floor after floor of screens and people working on it as far as you could see. Hundreds and hundreds of people developing it was incredible. I mean, when you think about it, obviously it takes a lot of people to make a video game of this beauty and detail. But to see it actually in action, and that's just kind of one studio that's working on the game. There are other studios working on it. Yeah, it was a real eye-opener to think that, you know, when you make a movie, you have, you know, sort of a crew of 100 people, a cast of 20 people, and then a post-production of maybe another 100 people. This is just like so much more vast, you know.
And you don't get to sort of like see the dailies to know. There's also all of those added challenges. Well, those are my questions. I imagine you guys have questions as well, so I do want to open it up to ask both of Ralph or Vash here. Oh, there we go. We have a microphone set up.
Hey.
Hello there, young pirate.
Hi.
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 My question is, you first had Altair in the Crusade, then Ezio with the Renaissance, then Connor with the Revolution War, now Edward with the Caribbean. What's next? A game closer to modern times.
Okay. That's just a really cheeky shield, isn't it? You know, to put up a really cute kid to ask the question.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Thinking that we're going to answer that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, where's the parent? Where's the parent? Very clever. Very clever.
Good work.
You know what? I would love to answer that question because you asked it and how you asked it. Unfortunately, it's not my place to do that.
And this poor guy is working so hard because you have about 2 more months left to close this game down.
Yeah.
But I think it would probably cause you heart palpitations that are unnecessary to even start thinking about beyond what you're trying to accomplish here
right
with
now
Assassin's Creed 4.
But you look fantastic, though, I have to say.
Yes,
That's
you have a
great
future
costume.
in games journalism, all right? Yes, over there.
That's a tough
Thank
act
you.
to follow.
Thank you.
Can't wait for the game. What, if anything, got cut from the game you wish made it into the final version?
Let's see. Definitely the biggest one, which was heartbreaking for me, was naval multiplayer. I lost a lot of sleep over that one. It was, you know, we had a couple prototypes that were awesome, really awesome, and but the scope of it was just really huge. We didn't think we were going to get it done in time, and to have it be debugged and polished properly. So unfortunately, that one didn't make it, and it really broke my heart the day that we decided to cut it from the game. But honestly, because we have a lot of the work that's there, we did a huge push on the naval stuff. You know, if fans really love Black Flag, if the game does really well, then you know, I'll be one of the first that tries to push for having naval multiplayer in some future thing somewhere in this.
That's pretty good quid pro quo.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm actually going to ask about something that's in the game. So I really loved how the combat in the later Assassin's Creed games has flowed more naturally, or as naturally as you can get, really. And I was curious if there's any new actions in combat, say when you're finishing off the guys that you were really proud to add to the game in this iteration?
You mean like moves in the fight
yeah,
system?
Like, yeah, fight, sorry. I made it sound more technical than it was.
The bear fist fighting is pretty awesome. We have a lot of moves that we're still tweaking to this day, but you know, it was an area that we felt, you know, it's where we took liberties on kind of having a more romanticized pirate thing. So, you know, having a tavern fight or a bar fight. So we put a lot of effort to the fisticuffs, the fighting, and Edward has some wicked moves. And then, of course, anytime you have an enemy that's somewhat close to a ledge, Edward always has a really nice way of finishing him off. So those are really cool moves. You know, we had a little fun with Edward. He is brash, he's charismatic, and it shows in his fight style. We even like to say that he's maybe a bit, he can be a bit stupid with it, like in the sense of that he's show-offy. You know, he does it. He kind of likes to boast and to show off, and he wants a little bit to be the center of attention. So we show it in his animations, where Connor maybe was just really brutal and you know, just after the kill. Edward is a bit more flamboyant in that manner.
And that's kind of interesting, just given, you know, if you look at the previous Assassin's Creed games, you know, a lot of it was also supposed to be, I hope no one notices me while I'm killing that guy. And that, you know, when you do have pirates, they're all about trying to spin their own tales and create, you know, their reputations. I mean, it must have been a fun thing to play with.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, from the assassination point of view, it's still, you know, we pushed very hard to have a lot of stealth kills, a lot of new ways of taking out enemies that is very stealthy and it is silent. But in the pure fight system, yeah, we you know, we'd let our animators run a bit wild with showing off Edward's, you know, show-offiness with the dual swords, even with the hidden blade. He sometimes does stuff that it's like, he didn't need to do that. That was just vicious.
He learned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. I know in previous Assassin's Creed games, you guys have put a lot of thought and effort into the naming of the characters, where there's always been meaning behind it. I was curious how you came up with the name Edward, and if Blackbeard's name being Edward had anything to do with that decision.
Ooh, good question.
Someone did their research. Nice.
No, Blackbeard's name had nothing to do with it. But you know what, Edward, I'll be honest and tell you, I actually don't know where his name came from. It's a name. What's that? I didn't hear that. Oh, Twilight? No, God. Okay. I didn't want to know that. I shouldn't have asked. No. He had his name. He's had his name. So we've had the character of Edward Kenway, at least this guy who was a British man who went into the West Indies, at least this basic definition of him, for a really long time. We've had it for years, actually, even way before my time even joining Assassin's Creed. So I'm not 100% sure where the name comes from. It's a good question. Usually the names are linked to birds or eagles. In this case, it's not. But that's actually purposeful in the sense that Edward is a pirate and not an assassin, at least when you meet him. Ezio is the same thing, but something happens in the story. I won't ruin it, but anyway, it'll make sense. But where Edward Kenway specifically comes from, honestly, I'm not 100% sure.
But the fact that he's a Kenway is significant because it does have a relation to Assassin's Creed 3.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. The Edward of the character of Edward being the grandfather of Connor, father of Hytham, or Hamish, as some people call him. Okay, some of you got that. Okay, good. So these three characters have existed for a really long time. Connor's character was much more fleshed out before Edward's was, but the Kenway family has been in the mythos of Assassin's Creed for us actually during Ezio's time. So we already kind of ahead of time knew that we were going to work on this family. To what extent, we weren't sure. And how far Edward's story was going to go, we weren't very sure at the time. But the family was super important to the Assassin's Order and to the conflict with the Templars.
All right, thank you.
All right, first off, I've got to say the enforcer standing next to me could probably win the Will Wheaton lookalike contest. Second, from a technical standpoint, I noticed that you guys are doing a lot of mocap for this game. How much mocap more did you do for this than you have for previous Assassin's Creed games?
It's, you know what, it's actually, I would say, it was less than AC3. AC3 had about 4 hours and something worth of cinematics. And it's insane. That much mocap and trying to polish all of that is incredibly difficult, and they had a massive team doing that. And in our case, we gave ourselves a number of 2 hours for the full game. And we felt that this was enough to tell the story. It forced Darby to be much more succinct with the writing. And to be more to the point and have much more, like I said before, like meat in the cinematics. And you know what? At the end of the day, it's a video game. It's not a movie. We are telling a story, and that's part of Assassin's Creed, and it's really important. But we didn't want you to be just sitting there watching a 5-minute cinematic. So yes, there's a lot of mocap. But like I said, there's about 2 hours for the full game, including the side content. There's about 2 hours worth of cinematics. We did capture a lot of mocap for the fight with Edward, with the enemy hit reactions, that kind of stuff, which is normal in game development at this stage of the industry.
Oh, thanks.
All right.
Well, you already answered my question about the naval multiplayer. That was admittedly a big letdown for me and a good group of my friends. I'm going off my little cuff here. I've noticed in some of the trailers we've seen Edward switching in and out of costumes, and I imagine that's obviously for stealth. But are we gonna be able to do that kind of at will, or is that more of a contextual thing?
No, this was the moment that you're talking about. It's in the mission. It's a specific mission where you have to actually find a specific target and take his costume and use it to enter at a place. So we actually did try having some type of disguise system where you get different costumes, but it didn't work out that well. It was when it's more scripted and narrative, it was working really well. When it was more systemic, the problem with it was it made detection rules very complicated and unclear. We tried some prototyping with it, and it just through play tests, nobody really enjoyed it. The concept was really cool, but just in gameplay, it wasn't working very well. So we kind of let it go, and we just decided, okay, we'll do it a couple times in the missions, just to get the flavor of it, but it's not a full system. Having said that, there are tons of costumes in the game, as usual, as people are used to with Assassin's Creed. But just to comfort people, whatever costume you have on is what you see in the cinematics. So, I mean, we cleared that up.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, I just want to, excuse me, sorry. I just want to start by saying that I think the Assassin's Creed games has become this humongous thing, which I think is amazing. And I'm going to keep it spoiler-free here. At the end of AC3, you guys decided to end Desmond's story. And the way I kind of saw it was basically Desmond's story was kind of the base of the AC stories. It was impressive because you were able to expand it as you're going along with the series. But in that sense, in AC3, you decided to end Desmond's story. So I was wondering, why do you guys decide to do that?
From AC1, his story was gonna end in AC3. So really early on, I mean, his story never changed. Maybe details changed, maybe certain things were modified, but the goal was that his story ends in AC3, and that the present day stuff, the Animus technology, the way it was going to progress after Desmond, to give us room to have flexibility in how we build the world, how we build the narrative. This gave us the ability to say that in AC4, we want new players to come play our game without having to know really what happened in the past. That doesn't mean what happened in the past is not relevant. It's actually very relevant, and it explains what happens in AC4, but you don't need to have known it. There is a lot of fiction and a lot of lore in the present day of AC4 that you can find that's optional. So for the people who want to keep fleshing out the universe and looking for all the content, there's tons of stuff and literally hours of stuff to find. So there is stuff for the fans. As I said, Desmond, it was from his inception. It was going to be the end of his story in AC3, and that the Animus technology and his bloodline was going to transcend forward after AC3.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thanks.
Hello, how are you guys today?
Hi, very good.
So that kind of leads into my question pretty well, actually. I know with Assassin's Creed 1 and 2, and somewhat with 3 as well, you had a really big emphasis on continuity between the Assassins, the bloodlines, the legacy between Assassins. But now we're going backwards rather than forwards, so I'm curious if that continuity aspect is going to remain a part of the story in Assassin's Creed 4, especially because you don't see too much of it in the actual trailers.
Yeah, the story that we're telling, it's like we tell snippets of a grander story. there was never a hard set rule that we always move forward in time. It just happened that, you know, Ezio's trilogy, that of course we're telling Ezio's story, so it moved forward. AC3, there was a big push to want to do the American Revolution. It just happened to move forward. So in our case, when we decided to jump back, honestly, it wasn't even a question, it wasn't even a thought. And it actually surprised us, the reaction that people were saying, oh, why are you going backwards? But you know, I'll say, like, Assassin's Creed is about history. It's about playing in history. We say our history is our playground. So we're always going to play in history. We're never, you know, I will be shocked one day if someone tells me we're going into space or we're going into a future AC. And we have the present day for having the more connected to present day stuff. So we have that. From a continuity perspective, you know, because we can jump back in history, it's not necessarily what you know, what happened after Edward's time that matters. It's actually what happened in Edward's time that matters to the present day. And that's actually, you know, it's part of the story. No one's ever asked me, why are we researching Edward Kenway? So there's a purpose, there's a reason. He does something in his life that has a lot of value for the present day Abstergo. Yes. Ooh. So there is. So from a continuity perspective, everything it continues properly, and you will be teased a lot about in the present day about the different periods that are being researched. Oh boy. Okay. So there's a lot of you know, the story is the continuity is there. But just because we jump back in time, you know, we have the vehicle to do it. It's, you know, we have a time machine effectively that allows us. And again, Edward does something that is very important to the Templars of the future. And that's the whole point of the present day, is you kind of figure out, like, why are we even researching this guy? And you realize it at some point, and it's cool.
Thank you. That's
My
awesome.
pleasure.
So I can still hold out hope that there will be an Assassin's Creed in the Plesiostone era?
Yes, you can have hope for that.
His name is Uga, and it's God. No one will respond
The order
to my
had
emails.
to start somewhere.
Yes.
Will we be able to bury our bounty?
Bury your bounty. Not specifically bury the bounty, but you do. I don't know if we ever talked about the hideout. I think we have. You have a hideout, and of course, you know, being the good pirate that you are, you need a place to store all your gold. So there is a really beautiful place for you to store your gold.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Ezio. Hey, buddy.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Long time no see.
So I guess I sound weird on the microphone, but my main question, I guess, would be: are we going to see a continuation of the story? I mean, I know we're going to be focusing on Edward and what he's done, but like, I know we're done with Desmond for now, but or not for now. You know, we're done with him. Are we going to see the story still progress because of Edward's character? Like, are we going to get more Nikolai? Like, not a lot of people know about him, you know, judging by your smile.
So first I'll say, if you think your voice sounds weird on a mic, just put it on YouTube and then listen back to it. Yeah, no, the story, the story continues, and you know, a lot of the characters that are in the AC universe do show up. We have, you know, some cameos, if you will, and you'll find a lot of information about Vidic and about a lot of AC lore. Again, just because Desmond's story ends, you know, I don't want to say spoil too much, but you know, we still have his DNA, right? And in the present day, there's a lot of content that shows you what happened to Desmond after AC3. Okay, so yeah, Desmond's important to the story. No matter what, whether you love him or hate him, or you know, he was a really important figure in the story. Just because his specific story ended in AC3, it doesn't mean his legacy is not still in the brand. It is. And yes, for sure, we played a lot with the lore of AC in the present day. So you're going to see a lot of really cool content, a lot of nods to stuff that might be a bit more tertiary and not many people know about. But for those fans who really dig in, you'll see tons of stuff.
Grazie.
All right. On that thoroughly intriguing response, I think we're going to have to wrap up today's panel. I know. I have a ton of things I want to talk about as well. Let's have a round of applause, obviously, for Ralph and for Ash. One final thing. I know the lights are kind of dim, but there's a group of you very, very impressive people dressed up in the front. I have been told to let you know, so stick around. As a result, you guys will be receiving a copy of Assassin's Creed 4 on the platform of your choice. Someone will be talking to you. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, too. I should have dressed up so I can get my copy. Having said that, guys, thank you so much. I'm Adam Susser. Another round of applause for our wonderful panelists. Let's do this again soon.